How to Avoid Mask Mandates and Vaccine Mandates at Work by Alan Stevo. A reader writes, "This whole comment section so far is, I don't like masks, but I won't do anything about it that might inconvenience me. The day before the mandatory mask order went into effect for my state, I told my boss I was not going to wear one and I would understand if they had to let me go. He had a shocked look on his face and said he would get back to me. He talked with upper management and told me to just keep coming to work as normal for the time being. That was months ago, and now we only have one person in the whole office of 100-ish people that even bothers to wear one. You think any of them would have stood up in the same situation? Probably not. But I took the risk because my rights in the direction this is going, I see as a far bigger threat than the possibility of me losing my job. Americans have become fearful and soft. We've gone from, I do this for my children, to, I can't do anything because I have children. Freedom has a cost. We used to understand this. I seek out stories of inspiration like this from people who've identified their boundaries, communicated their boundaries, and defended their boundaries, and fill my day with them, and surround myself with people who live life true to themselves. Life is too short to do otherwise than to be in the presence of the best as much as possible. I don't know this commenter, yet I believe that he would have walked right out the door of his job and never turned back like many good and brave men and women. They're the 1% of courageous people. The negotiation that you refuse to walk away from is a negotiation that you're the inferior party to. No one owes you anything. Not a second more on this earth is promised to you. You must always ask yourself every morning before work if you're heading the right direction that you want. If this 8 or 10 or 12 hours you spend a day is helping you become the person you want to be. For me, like for this commenter, a mask requirement is a deal breaker. A vaccine requirement is a deal breaker. There are plenty of places that my services could be used, and if my services mean so little to the person running the show that I need to mask, I will happily walk out the door to stand masked. Will you? If you won't, tell me what I need to do to convince you otherwise, because if you will become that person who will just walk away, it'll change your life for the better, and it'll ripple through to those around you for the better. If you can't say that about the mask, or otherwise negotiate the scenario, you won't be able to negotiate around a vaccine, and you won't be able to negotiate around much worse. I don't know what the future holds, but the mask holes of the planet, eager to see 100% mask compliance, don't seem ready to call it all a big gag, let bygones be bygones, and back down from their vainglorious year of steering the world into a pit of ruin. If demands are made of you that you don't agree with now, this very moment is the time to be ready to back away from the slippery slope with your dignity and values fully intact. There's little there for you in a place that you can't be respected to make your own health decisions, which is 100% what a face mask is, a health decision. Medicine works that way. You make your own health decisions, I make mine. If you say, well, it affects others, you aren't dealing with the field of medicine, rooted in the concept of the individual doctor and his individual patient together against the world. No, you're instead dealing with the field of public health, which is a political and sociological field that does not concern itself with health or medicine in all but the most shallow ways, but instead concerns itself almost entirely with control and compliance. Well, it affects others, is the public health canard that was used to dose 3 generations with mercury-containing vaccines, bringing about all manner of ills, to lock down thriving economies and lives, and to mask vast parts of the globe. If the canard is true, and it all affects others so badly, why doesn't the public health profession come up with policies that are good for others? Why don't they come up with policies that work? Why are they so set on the sickest, most contorted, most destructive, and thoroughly disproven means? Why do they go so far as to silence those who point that out? The canard means nothing. It doesn't communicate intent or intention. The public health profession doesn't care about data or evidence unless it allows them to have a more compliant populace. They use that canard, well, it affects others, because it's an effective way to sucker good people. There's little other reason than that. As such, well, it affects others, is a canard that no thinking person should allow spoken unchallenged in his presence. It is meant to pull at the heartstrings. It needs to assault the emotions because it can't possibly be used to make sense of the policies that follow. It is the excuse for brute force regulation and blunt object central planning. It must be laughed at, and the user of the phrase pitied for their intellectual impoverishment. There's no excuse for such unthinking intellectual impoverishment in the age of the internet. Willful ignorance does not give one a free pass. The non sequitur of the canard is never questioned. Well, it affects others. And we're all in it together. Therefore, I will fully engage the antisocial tools of radicals in the public health profession and burn society to the ground. Sorry, thinking people don't fall for this nonsense. We aren't in anything together. I have myself, my God, my family, and my tribe, individuals every one. You can imagine yourself as collectively as you want. That has no bearing on my ability to freely associate. The last people I want to freely associate with are the technocrats actively trying to burn down society. Their insistence that I'm one of them is of no meaning to me. Just as rape is sex, absent the ability of free association, and slavery is employment, absent the ability of free association, public health is medicine, absent the ability of free association. No free man deserves rape, slavery, or public health in his life. No free man allows rape, slavery, or public health in his life. Rape, slavery, and public health might not sound like equivalents to you, but that's only because you've been convinced to not pierce the surface of the fallacious term public health, and we have the best of intentions. Exterior. Public health used to go by another name, utilitarianism, until they got wise to the fact that no one liked that far too honest name, and they worked on their public relations. The field remains utilitarian, which means this. If Mrs. Jones provides 2 utils to society dead, and 1 util to society alive, then it's time for Mrs. Jones to be dead, is the basic math of the public health professional. This math, and its sociopathic influence, was something that society was protected from until about March 2020, when these utilitarians took control of the levers of power globally and publicly proclaimed that they would be denying the right of free association to all humans who found themselves under their control. Any view of public health that does not get down to its utilitarian underpinnings and place them front and center, instead of speaking Jeremiads about clean water, thank you capitalism, or indoor plumbing, thank you capitalism, is sorely mistaken. Well, it affects others, is a parroted defense and veil of the most awful of anti-human behaviors that leaves Mrs. Jones a mere ledger entry rather than a human made in the likeness of God. Please never find yourself saying or thinking such a thing again. Draw clear lines between those who you choose to walk through life with as distinguished from all others. Such boundaries are healthy. Free association is the territory of the free man who identifies his boundaries, communicates his boundaries, and defends his boundaries. The rest of society, choosing to willingly do something else, is willingly making themselves into something less. They are most certainly not free men. Declare your freedom to the world. Accept no less. Day by day be the freest man you can be. The world will quickly fall in line, give you what you want, and self-select around you. Plenty will be unable to stand you. The fearful and the faithful simply do not mix. The courageous and the cowardly do not mix. You will begin to repel exactly the fools who you will be least interested in suffering. It may not be easy, but it'll be great. That I promise you, and that greatness will radiate from you and encourage others.